Mark Rober has landed himself into a bit of controversy surrounding his most recent video, Can You Fool a Self-Driving Car? Among other points of contention that people have brought up, Mark Rober had photoshopped some elements of his video. Mark had also released raw footage of the test that they had ran, which seemingly did not match up with the original video. But on top of that, the premise and title of the video is misleading to start. To kick things off, let's just go over the premise of the video. The first half of this video is Mark going onto Disney rides to showcase this equipment that he has on his chest, and it's called a LiDAR system. Now you can see here, there's a bunch of flashing lights when he has it out, and he pulls it out and it looks really weird. I would not be super comfortable sitting next to this guy. It also just kind of looks fake because it's like very clearly bulging out of his chest, and I feel like Disney security would immediately jump on that. But we're not here to verify if he checked in with a large corporation before he went in and did what he did. Now he was using this LiDAR equipment to make a 3D map of the inside of some of his favorite Disney rides like Space Mountain. But he was also showcasing this LiDAR technology because it was going to be in one of the two cars that they're using to test their abilities to self-drive and to see if you can fool them. Now, this particular self-driving car is coming from a company called Luminar, who is planning to use LiDAR detection in their own self-driving cars. It seems that the main point of this video is to showcase the differences between LiDAR detection versus more conventional detection that's used in like Tesla cars. That just being cameras with an imaging processor to help detect things that are around the car. Now, from what I'm able to understand with my puny little brain, it seems that LiDAR is just generally more effective because it doesn't have to deal with visual illusions or obstacles like fog or a Wile E. Coyote style painting in front of a road. Now, the first thing that Mark Rober gets wrong is the title. Can you fool a self-driving car? Well, maybe, but the answer was not found in your video because neither of the cars that were tested, the Tesla or the Luminar car, were self-driving. As a matter of fact, just looking at one of the tests here, when he's in the Luminar car, this car is not self-driving. It is in fact being operated by this gentleman right here. And when he goes to drive the Tesla car, he is also in control and driving this car. Now, maybe this is just a simple, we're trying to get people to click on the video type of thing, but a very important distinction to make is the difference between self-driving and advanced driver assistance. Now, this is a pretty common misconception unless you own one of those cars. I don't. I just surround myself with drama and controversy, so I have to educate myself about these things. So what we're really testing here is the advanced driver assistance systems that are in these cars. Now, just really quick, I get it. It really could just be that the title is set up that way to get people interested and engaged with the video. I totally get that. I'm leaving that up to you guys, but let's jump into some other points. Now, I'm just gonna let play the next part that people have been having an issue with, which is that this footage that I'm gonna show you guys right now in the actual video is not gonna line up with the raw footage that Mark Rober ends up showcasing on his Twitter.
As the wall crept closer and closer without moving an inch, the question was if the Tesla would detect it in time to step on the brakes. And it turned out...
Now, as you can see in this little picture right here, you can see these going 42 miles an hour, which is above the 40, but not really the point. The other thing is that the autopilot, which is what Mark Rober has been using for this, you can see it's actually turned off. And here you can see when the autopilot is turned on, it's actually a bit hard to see, but it's a rainbow road that shows up on the screen here. And he flicked this on about 3.8 seconds is what people were saying before he ends up connecting with the wall. I actually slowed it down for you guys here. He flicks on autopilots around 39, 40 miles an hour is when you start to see the color show up. This is gonna be important, wait up. So initially, people have some questions about the fact that the autopilot disengaged before he connects with the wall. And so in response to that, Mark Rober posts the raw footage. He says in his post, here's the raw footage of my Tesla going through the wall. Not sure why it disengages 17 frames before hitting the wall, but my feet weren't touching the brake or gas. Now, from what I understand, this is actually what seems to happen in Tesla cars before they have an impact. People were assuming that maybe that was to like avoid blaming the autopilot for the crashes. But from what I understand, Tesla recognizes autopilot as being the fault of the crash, or at least being engaged during the crash, so long as it has been engaged within 5 seconds of the crash happening. But with that side note aside, let's just go ahead and take a look at this raw footage. And I'm actually going to go a bit slower just to showcase to you guys. We're at 25 miles an hour here. Let's see when he engages the autopilot. Now, if you didn't see it, I put it in half speed just to showcase to you guys. It engaged the autopilot, or he turned it on at 42 miles an hour. And if we just hop back over to the video that I have paused, you can clearly see that it was engaged at 39 miles an hour in this video. So with this raw footage that Mark Rober has put out, it's confirming that they did this in 2 separate test runs. So the biggest issue that we have with this is the fact that Mark Rober released raw footage to showcase the incident that people were having an issue with, only to show footage of an entirely different run that they had where they crashed the Tesla through the wall. Now, I know retakes and doing something over, doing a test run doesn't, super seem like a big deal, and it really shouldn't be. But when your channel is dedicated to science, people expect the bare minimum when it comes to testing a hypothesis or doing what they did in this video, which is if you are going to do a retest, if you're going to have these outside variables or different conditions in which you're running your test, you would think that Mark Rober would include those things, because if you do include them, then you don't allow people who are a bit, perplexed or have an issue with your video or point out these inconsistencies, you don't give them the opportunity to just theorize. It really could end up not being a huge deal, and these inconsistencies could be explained away by doing a few runs of what they did, but they don't make any mention of that. Another point to be made is that when they ran this test, let's just go off of the YouTube video, they engaged the autopilot about 3.8 seconds before it collided with the wall. Whereas the LiDAR system seems to just always be engaged even when the car is stopped before they start doing the wall collision test. That just adds the question, why do you need to turn on the autopilot a couple seconds before the wall instead of just having it turned on right when you start moving? Now, another contention that people have with the testing done in this video is that Mark uses the autopilot feature of his Tesla. From what I've been able to glean from the multiple tweets that I've had to go through, as well as a little bit of Google research, autopilot is an older, more archaic version of what they use now, which is FSD, which stands for full self-driving. Now, believe it or not, that's also misleading, because it is not full self-driving. It's just a more advanced driver assistance feature that still requires active driver supervision. Now, I do think it's a bit misleading to not use the state-of-the-art stuff that Tesla is putting into their cars compared to what I'm assuming has to be a pretty up-to-date LiDAR system that is being used on a car that isn't even commercially available with Luminar. Is FSD going to perform better against, the autopilot feature? More than likely, yeah. But is it actually going to improve how the Tesla performed in these tests? Maybe. I'm not really sure. I'm led to believe no, and I want to explain why. Specifically, I want to show you guys the different tests that were done between the two cars. We're only going to be going over the ones where the Tesla failed just so I can showcase why. Now, keep in mind, they're really just kind of showcasing how LiDAR performs better than its standard camera. In this instance, they used a bunch of smoke machines or fog machines and have completely shrouded this child mannequin in the road, and they're seeing if the autopilot is going to stop the car and detect the kid. Now, in this case, the LiDAR system is able to detect the child, and this is because the lasers can penetrate through the fog and detect the mannequin behind the fog. Whereas when the Tesla goes through it, because it's just using visual cameras, it's not going to be able to detect the child. And then next up, they put a bunch of fire trucks around and were like shooting water from the sides in front of the kid. And you could even tell that with the LiDAR system, it was actually also very difficult to see the child because of all the water being sprayed across being like physical things that the lasers can't penetrate through. Now, I don't think that the LiDAR system car stopped because it detected the mannequin. I think it stopped because it detected the seemingly solid wall of water that was happening in front of the mannequin. But as well, as you could probably suspect, because I'm showing it to you and I already told you this, the Tesla car did not pass. It went straight through and nailed the mannequin. Now, the big reason that I have an issue with testing these two is it wasn't really like a fair test to begin with. They were focusing on the different aspects that are going to showcase how the LiDAR performs more effectively than just standard, cameras that are being used in the Tesla car. If we want to be realistic, if we want to be honest with what's going on here, the tests where the Tesla car failed would most likely never happen to anybody. For instance, if the fog is so bad that you can't see 5-10 feet in front of your car, you're not driving anymore. You pull to the side. That is an insane amount of fog that happens on fringe cases and maybe happens on like certain parts of the world that I don't live in more commonly than it happens to me. And on top of that, if you're in a torrential downpour that is so bad that, like the fog, you can't see in front of your car 5 feet, 10 feet, you're not driving. Everyone pulls to the side of the road. Those aren't safe driving conditions if you are just fully in control of the car and when it stops. They also tested using like these super bright lights to see if the Tesla or the LiDAR car would succeed or fail, and they both succeeded. But even then, even with a sunrise that is like blinding you, it's not even close to that. It's just not realistic. And of course, the Wile E. Coyote painting that they rammed the Tesla car through, that is not happening to almost anyone outside of some small areas in desert, arid locations. And even then, it's only happening to coyotes, not even people. I'm not here to defend Tesla. I've already made videos not liking the guy who's running the company. I don't own a Tesla. I'm not speaking for even that side of the aisle, but it really does come off as the test that was done was very much already on the side of the LiDAR system to pass. Like, that was the expectation. I mean, they even made a cartoonish cutout of where the Tesla would crash through, like a Wile E. Coyote bit. Like, this thing came pre-scored. This was the expectation. They were planning on this car getting through that wall, and that's not bad. Like, that's not inherently a bad thing. But again, it just seems like this was set up to already paint the Tesla car in a bad light, as opposed to just showcasing that LiDAR does perform better in these fringe cases as compared to the Tesla. As a matter of fact, this video could just be showcasing the fact that LiDAR is just so much more precise, maybe a hell of a lot more expensive, but very precise and able to assist with actually getting to a place where there are actually fully self-driving vehicles. Is that a much less interesting premise than the one that they showcase in this video? This guy is making videos to entertain large masses of people. This is the expectation. Did he feel more comfortable because Elon has been getting absolutely dunked on and they're calling Teslas swastikars? Maybe. I don't really know if it's that deep. I'm not sure if it really is, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. But the last thing that I want to bring your attention to in this video has to do with the phone that was used to record some of those shots that were taken. Now here you can see that they're using what looks to be a Google Pixel. You can tell by the G here for Google. But now in this shot, you'll notice that you can actually see the reflection of a phone. It's got those 3 cool little circles here, indicating the camera and the little square holding the cameras. This is an iPhone that has that. It's the three cameras. Now, for those eagle-eyed viewers out there, you might have noticed something about the Pixel. It doesn't have 3 cameras. And now suddenly, I mean, this Google Pixel is looking a bit strange. Well, it's very nice and visible for us, isn't it? But is the G supposed to be standing upright when the phone's on its side? You guys like stupid questions? I like stupid questions. No, the G should not be placed like that. And as you can see here, someone also showcased the fact that the Google logo was flipped incorrectly. So now we can kind of see for sure. Mark Rober probably, I believe, has a sponsorship with Google Pixel, and I believe they had to do that after the fact just to kind of try to get away with it. Now, honestly, it looks a lot worse for Mark Rober, the fact that he edited it instead of just being like, my bad, I forgot to use the proper type of phone or whatever, because now it's telling people the Google Pixel is so bad, at least camera-wise, that we're just going to film it with an iPhone and then Photoshop it because we can't even be paid enough to use the Google Pixel to record those inside shots. Doesn't look the greatest. I don't think it's as related to the video, but it just showcases more of this like being disingenuous, and maybe it's not that deep. Realistically, I think the Google Pixel thing being switched out and being edited, I don't think it's really that deep. I'm more curious to hear what you guys have to say about Tesla being compared to this Luminar car. The other 2 things that I thought were, kind of important to point out and just that I found interesting is the fact that Luminar Technologies is getting their earnings report on March 20th. So a video that is benefiting and making them look really good compared to other electric car companies that have these built-in, self-driving quote-unquote technologies is very good for them. But even with that, in the description of Mark's video, they say, thanks to Luminar for allowing us to test their LiDAR-equipped car. They provided the vehicle for testing purposes, but no compensation was given, and this is not a paid promotion. I just find it interesting that this earnings report is coming up soon, but again, they are saying in the description that this is not a paid sponsorship, so I don't really know how else they could be benefiting from from this in that type of way. So I just think it's a good point to showcase both of those facts. But that's it for the video today. Come join the Discord. I'll put a comment in the comments that says that. I'll see you guys later. Adios, peace, bye, see ya.